Good morning, and welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship Sunday morning service, where we gather on the ancestral lands of the Eno, Sissipaha, Shakore, Sapani, and Lumbee people. I am Reverend Patty Hanneman. I am both a member here and serving as your transitions minister until Reverend Jacqueline comes back next week. So this will be my last Sunday with you in the pulpit. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whether you are with us in person or enjoying this online, we are glad that you are with us. And I want to thank all of you, all of the people here in the chancel this morning and in the back that have helped put this service together, and all of you here that are worshiping with us this morning. Thank you for being with us. If you are brand new, if this is your first or second time, I would encourage you to stand now or wave your arms and let us know that you are here so we can give you a warm welcome. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. I want to make a couple of announcements this morning. First of all, at 11:15 today in the Commons Room, there will be an inquirers class, and the topic will be justice ministry and racial equity and inclusion. And the other thing I want to let you all know is that choir rehearsal begins this week with the new choir director. The Beloved Community Chorus will be meeting on Tuesday evening, and the Eno River Singers will be meeting Thursday evening. Check the website for the times, but that'll begin this week. Let's take a moment now to center ourselves for worship, turning off our cell phones so that we can be fully present. And let's take a couple of deep breaths together as we breathe in the energy of this beloved community, and we breathe out any thoughts or feelings we might have that would keep us from being fully present together. Let's take another deep breath in and out, and we begin our worship together.
Thresholds. We cross them every day. from room to room, from outside to inside, and back again from here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age.
Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from where we were and what we are to what we can be.
In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of the new life, pregnant with possibilities.
How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community?
Come, you longing, thirsty souls, come, let us worship together. We light this beacon of hope, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist heritage, as we commit ourselves to letting our own lights shine.
I invite you all to stand in either body or spirit as we sing this opening hymn, This Little Light of Mine. It is on your screen and number 118 in your gray hymnal.
But I invite you to sing from the Spirit because we all know this song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yes, and I'm building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And before you sit down, please take a moment to turn and greet your neighbors.
I would like to invite all the children and young at heart to join me up here for a story. Anyone and everyone wants to hear the story this morning. Thank you. It's good to see all of you this morning. This morning, I have a story about a little girl named Shen who had a very special gift. And she had some powerful people that were encouraging her to use it in the wrong ways. So let's see what happens and how Shen gets out of that situation, which is not unlike some situations all of us feel sometimes. Go and catch some shrimps, Shen. Go and catch some fish. Go and gather oysters to fill the empty dish. Shen sits on the seashore, a stick is in her hand. She sits there drawing pictures in the sand. She draws a flower, a flying fish. She draws a boat at sea, a hen, a hare, a dancing dog, a weeping willow tree. The waves roll in and wash away the pictures in the sand, but on a rock there sits a man. A brush is in his hand. He looks around, he calls to Shen. Come here, he whispers. Hush, we don't want all the world to know about this magic brush. He slips the brush into her hand and tells her to be sure never to paint for wealthy folk, but only for the poor. Did you catch some shrimps, Shen? Did you catch some fish? Did you gather oysters to fill the empty dish? No shrimps, no fish, no oysters. She laughs and runs inside. She paints a pot, then stands and waits until the paint has dried. The paint dries on the paper. The painting of the pot is not a painting anymore, but real and steaming hot. The pot is full of shrimps, Shen. The pot is full of fish. The pot is full of oysters to fill the empty dish. The village people hear the news. Into the house they crush, the young and old, and all want to see Shen and her magic brush. She paints a melon for a boy, a ladder for a man, a basket for a woman, and for a girl, a fan. And soon the news spreads far and wide, and people stand in queues for blankets, boats, and buffaloes, for hats and coats and shoes. The news spreads over fields of rice and over desert sands until at last inside Shen's house the powerful emperor stands. I order you to paint a tree and make it very big. Instead of leaves, paint golden coins, 100 on each twig. She shakes her hand. Your Majesty, I promise to be sure never to paint for wealthy folk, but only for the poor. The emperor scowls, stomps his foot. He bellows to his men, seize the magic paintbrush and seize the girl called Shen. Now Shen sits in a prison upon a cold stone floor. She waits there until the emperor opens the prison door. He holds the magic paintbrush. He orders, paint that tree. Paint me my tree of golden coins, and then you shall go free. She takes the brush and, bowing low, says, Gracious Majesty, come back here in the morning, and you shall have your tree. That night, the emperor lies in bed and dreams about his tree while Shen is busy painting a horse and then a key. The key turns in the prison door and Shen stands free outside. She climbs onto the horse's back and swiftly starts to ride. Where are my coins? The emperor shouts. Where is my golden tree? Where is the magic brush? He cries. Who let that girl go free? He climbs to his fastest horse and rides with all his men. Over the fields and desert sands they gallop after Shen. It's Shen! It's Shen! She's back again! The neighbors gather round. But Shen is painting silently while distant hoofbeats sound. She paints a mighty river, a river deep and wide. The emperor and all his men stop on the other side. The emperor scowls and stomps his foot. He shakes his fist at Shen. I'll swim across your river, and so will all my men. But Shen is busy painting, a beast with scales and claws. Its scarlet wings are open and flames curl from its jaws. My dragon needs a tail, says Shen, and then it will be real. Yes, then it will be roaring and ready for a meal. Now shall I paint that tail, she asks, or would you rather go? She dips her brush into the pot. The emperor cries out, no! He turns his horse and rides away. Away ride all his men. Shen takes the magic paintbrush and starts to paint again. She paints a mound of golden rice and cakes like little moons, and drums and flutes till all the streets ring out with merry tunes. The sun goes down, the moon comes out, and shines as bright as day, while Shen and all the villagers dance the night away. That is the end. And I will invite you all to go to your classrooms now while we sing you out of the sanctuary. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning. My name's Stacy Parker Fisher, and I've been asked to come here this morning and talk with you a little bit about my experience as part of the centering groups, the reading group that's going on this summer. And just to give a little context, this is the second time I've been up here in the last couple of months. My husband Charlie and I are new members of the congregation and are very happy to be here. But part of what led us on to a search to find a new spiritual home was partly this phase of our lives, but I think also just an innate hunger that we had to continue to grow and learn and find a place that nurtured that kind of thinking and provided opportunities for that. We came to this church right in the midst of the transition between Deb and Reverend Brett coming in. So I learned about the centering groups and thought this would be a good opportunity to get to know people more deeply, to grow and to be a part of people asking good questions and having deep conversations in an authentic context, and to hopefully be able to support this transition. Reverend Brett had, this came from an idea that she had after being involved in the centering book, to see how this congregation might use this as a tool to help them in the transition process. So the groups meet, every other week for 4 times during the summer, and as I began to read the book, I just want to read you a quick quote that really sealed it up for me, that this is what I wanted to be a part of. So this book is essentially 9 essays that are all written by people of color who are involved in different roles in the Unitarian Church. So there's a introduction that describes the process and describes the purpose of the book. And it says, therefore, most conversations and trainings about things like diversity, multiculturalism, right relationship, and anti-oppression put white experience at the center, learning to reach out and be relevant to people of color. Rarely are the leadership and experience of people of color at the center of the conversation. That really resonated with me as I thought about the different kinds of experiences I had been involved in DEI and some of the other efforts that were made. But to look at this closely from the perspective of the person of color and not in terms of their relationship to the dominant culture. So each of these essays also has a response written by another person, another professional in the Unitarian Church of color. So as you can imagine, these generate some great conversations. And one of the things I want to be sure that you know about your church is that they know how to have a good conversation. I've spent a lot of time in professional development, and the structures that are a part of this fellowship, using facilitative strategies to allow space for each person to present their ideas, and that promote the idea of listening, not consensus, not trying to promote a point of view, but simply to listen to other points of view. It's incredibly meaningful and a great opportunity for growth. The sessions that we've had so far have been incredibly meaningful to me and helpful in terms of developing my own thinking and thinking about the role that this experience can have in my actions as a part of this transition. And those are the key questions that we have for each session. To use this time to reflect on the readings and on what you hear from other people, and then to take those reflections and think how you can use them to make an impact on promoting the success of this transition for Reverend Brett. So I would encourage you, if you have interest in this, there's some thought about doing more sessions in the fall. I think if you speak with Eric Hodges about that, or other church leaders, that's hopefully will be a possibility for you if that's something you're interested in. I'm also happy to talk with you more about it. But I want to say thank you for being the fellowship that you are, and we feel very privileged to be a part of these conversations.
Good morning. Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I'm either hanging on to a trapeze bar swinging, or for a few moments, I'm hurtling across space between trapeze bars. Mostly, I spend my time hanging on for dear life to the trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along at a certain steady rate of swing, and I have the feeling that I'm in control. I know most of the right questions and even some of the right answers. But once in a while, as I'm merrily or not so merrily swinging along, I look ahead of me into the distance, and what do I see? I see another trapeze bar looking at me. It's empty. And I know in that place in me that knows that this bar has my name on it. It is my next step, my growth, my aliveness coming to get me. In my heart of hearts, I know that for me to grow, I must release my grip on the well-known present bar to move to the new one. Each time it happens, I pray that I won't have to grab the new one. But in my knowing place, I know that I must totally release my grasp on my old bar, and for some moments in time, I must hurtle across the space before I can grab the new bar. Each time I do this, I am filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my previous hurdles, I've made it. Each time I'm afraid I will miss, that I will be crushed on unseen rocks in the bottomless basin between bars. But I do it anyway. I must. Perhaps this is the essence of that the mystics call faith. No guarantees, no net, no insurance. But we do it anyway because hanging on to that old bar is no longer an option. And so, for what seems to be an eternity, but actually lasts a microsecond, I soar across the dark void called "The past is over, the future is not yet here." It's called a transition. I have come to believe that it is the only place that real change occurs. I have a sneaking suspicion that the transition zone is the only real thing, and that the bars are the illusions we dream up to not notice the void. Yes, with all the fear that can accompany transitions, they are still the most vibrant, growth-filled, passionate moments of our lives. And so transformation of fear may have nothing to do with making the fear go away, but rather with giving ourselves permission to hang out in the transition zone, between the trapeze bars, allowing ourselves to dwell in the only place where change really happens. It can be terrifying, it can be enlightening. Hurling through the void, we may just learn to fly.
Good morning. Please join me for a time of meditation and prayer. This morning, we link our hearts together in beloved community with gratitude for this very day, with prayers for all who are experiencing loss, illness, or hardship, and joy for all who are celebrating special life events with family and friends. We acknowledge that amidst these challenging times, it is good to be together in beloved community. As we prepare for our lead minister, Reverend Jacqueline Brett's return from sabbatical and beginnings with new staff, we are grateful for the wisdom and guidance offered by our transition teams. We are thankful for Reverend Patty, who has guided our Sunday worship these past several weeks with encouraging words that call us into accountability as community. We are grateful for the gifts Jenny Jolly has shared with ERUUF during her time here, and we wish her well in her new endeavors. As we stand at the threshold of yet another beginning for ERUUF, may we listen deeply for what speaks truth in our hearts as I share these words by John O'Donohue. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and you stepped out onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Let us pause for a time of silence and allow these words to rest in our being. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
The past several weeks this summer, we've been building a house of hope. I've used various parts of a house as metaphors for what it takes to build, maintain, and be accountable to a faith community that is life-giving and hope-sustaining within a liberal, progressive context. We began in early June in the garden, the natural world we are so connected to and on which our metaphorical house rests. And we reflected on the importance of seeing all of this, everything around us, as holy ground. Then we moved on to the roof, which symbolized what keeps us safe from harm and the importance of creating space for those with spirits worn down from being in the storm too long. Our sheltering walls represented our commitment to covenantal relationships and the deeply faith-based art of covenant making as being that which grounds us as a community. The foundations of our house was next, the divine-human encounter, and we reflected on the importance of allowing for a chaotic creative work of reimagining the divine so that our relationship and accountability to it are grounded in love. And lastly, we talked about the welcoming room that represents our Sunday morning worship. The need to provide a worship experience with enough size to include a wide range of participants. Radical hospitality is being able to risk our own discomfort to make room for others and being willing to be changed in the process. This morning will be the last of our series, and this will be my last day here with you in the pulpit. So it seems appropriate as we transition to new ministry that the image that I'm thinking about this morning is the doorway of our house of hope, the threshold, a place of transition, the moment between shelter and adventure. We take what we have found here, the support, the lessons about community building, our principles and our values, and then we take all of this back out into the world again, to our homes, our workplaces, and the larger world that we inhabit. As a progressive faith, we are called to be a beacon of hope to the world, to let our lights shine. Our faith communities don't just exist so that we can soak up the good vibes here and take a little bit of wisdom with us. We are lovers of leaving for a reason, to serve beyond our walls. There are a lot of dark corners out there for us to shine our lights into. There is a lot of darkness. It can feel overwhelming when you read the paper and it seems like there's just one dumpster fire after another. We're talking about mission here. I know ERUUF has a mission statement. It reads, "The mission of the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is to transform lives by building a free and inclusive, covenantal, religious community of spirit, service, justice, and love." Spirit, service, justice, love. That's a pretty powerful statement. How do we be accountable to that out in the world? The late Wallace Robbins, who served as the dean of Rockefeller Chapel at the University of Chicago, once said that the mission of liberal religion is to make religion more liberal and make liberals more religious. And that's not actually a bad mission statement either. So let's begin with that as we think about what we are accountable to. First, what would it look like if we were to make religion more liberal? We often associate the word liberal with terms like progressive or the left. And while there are many ways to define religious liberalism, most scholars of religion will tell you that its most prominent characteristic is an intentional engagement with modern culture. In other words, religious liberals are very comfortable critiquing their faith and any theological claims they make in terms of what modern science and modern knowledge tells us, as well as our own personal experience. So aiming for coherence between scientific views and the interpretation of our principles or doctrines, knowing that authority cannot rest only on scripture or tradition. Religious liberals see themselves as open-minded, willing to change, with flexible faith commitments and a comfort with religious pluralism. Religious liberalism is on the decline these days. Fundamentalism might be seen as its opposite, and since World War II, religious fundamentalism is the only portion of the religious spectrum in this country that has grown. And this is the case because of the general ambiguity into which our times have fallen. What many of us see as the greatest freedom to choose the kind of life we want to live in human history has stirred the anxiety of many. Fundamentalism is really an anxiety management technique. And it filters the complexities of life through rigid and simplistic belief systems. If I convince myself that the world should forever be based on the values of a previous age, whenever that golden age might have occurred, then I don't have to address the ambiguities of moral choice that we face in the here and now. Someone asked me the other day, what does the Bible say about abortion rights? And when I told them that it didn't actually address it, they were nonplussed, kind of, set adrift. They didn't know what to do with that. So what do we do? How do we make religion more liberal, open-minded? I think we can begin by opening our hearts and minds to the anxiety, ambivalence, and ambiguity of our modern world, and to recognize that it is real. Fundamentalism of all stripes is a serious problem because it keeps people from engaging with one another and hearing one another's stories. If it serves as a technique for managing anxiety, then what can we do to reduce that anxiety? To bear the anxiety ourselves, to help others do the same, will lead to more openness. Openness leads to revelation. Revelation leads to new discoveries. Discoveries lead to enlargement of the heart. But it takes letting go sometimes of that trapeze bar in order to make that change and listen to another's stories. Now, what would it look like for liberals to be more religious? The word religion comes from the term, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I think it's religar, which means to bind fast, or to place an obligation on, or to be accountable to something. And most often when we use the word religious or religion, we're talking about being accountable to a set of behaviors or doctrines and having a respect for that which is sacred. If sin is missing the mark, then living religiously would suggest living in such a way that you are aligning your actions with the force of nature which is life-giving, so that you're not missing the mark. And this is to live religiously. When we as religious liberals focus too much on individual freedom and not enough on that accountability to that which is sacred or of the highest value, then we can begin to lose our way. And we also lose the respect of many other religious traditions. This brings me to the term progressive, because throughout this series I've reflected on how to build a liberal, progressive faith community. And while liberal refers to open-mindedness, progressivism refers to political and social positions that support the interdependent web of which we are a part, so that decreasing violence, ecological exploitation, and injustice are all part of a progressive agenda. The 7 principles that we covenant to promote mark us as a progressive faith tradition. Liberalism may free our minds. Progressivism calls us to action. The vision of progressivism is having all life flourish. I'm separating the two terms, liberal and progressive, because even though we claim both for ourselves, when we cross the threshold to do our work outside in the world, we sometimes, maybe most likely, will find partners for which the term liberal does not apply. And we do ourselves a grave disservice if we look only for other liberal folks to partner with and to work with. Think of the Reverend William Barber, who would not consider himself a liberal, nor would Jim Wallace, who's the leader of the Sojourner Christian community, or the Rabbi Lerner, editor of Tycoon magazine. All of these men are deeply committed to social justice, but it's because that their call comes straight out of the ancient biblical text they follow, not a liberal stance. Often we find ourselves working alongside progressive, religious conservatives who are passionate about some of the same things that we are passionate about. And we can accomplish so much more of our progressive agenda if we respect and appreciate that they are some of our most fantastic partners in the work. So what then does the world expect of us? What does it need from us as progressive, liberal, religious people? Where do we let our lights shine when there are so many dark corners and prevailing winds that seem intent on wanting to blow out our lights? Each of your answers will be different to that question, and yet each one of us is called to serve out our faith in the world. There are many groups at ERUUF working for a more just world, and if you want to know about them, you may want to check out the Inquirers class that happens right after this service. They'll be discussing our justice ministries and our commitment to racial equity and inclusion. More broadly, if you discern, as you discern where you may be called to serve, I suggest that you begin with a couple of questions for yourself. The first one is, what sacred forces, what relationships, what life circumstances are you most deeply grateful for? And then second, how can you best be accountable to these beautiful gifts that you've been given? Because being accountable, truly accountable to what we love, and serving out of a place of deep gratitude is where we begin. And if this love calls you to be an activist in some regard, know that there will always be twists and turns and setbacks, large and small victories too. It will be a journey that tests you and sometimes will leave you heartbroken. And when that happens, there is a threshold here that will welcome you back again. Being accountable to what you love is not a job for the do-it-yourself action hero. It needs a circle of support with a shared meaning at its center. All of this is deep soul work. It is also your aliveness coming to get you. Here we are on the threshold. We are here. May it be so. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be. From the deep gratitude that we feel for this community, we give back our time and our treasures. I would like to call the ushers forward now to take up the morning offering.
I'm going to sing another little song here. It's called an ERUUF blessing. It's something that Kate wrote way back at the very beginning of the pandemic when we were transitioning into being at home and watching the services on live stream. And now as we transition to our new ministry, we thought it would be appropriate to sing it again. Sending hope, sending love, sending peace to all those here within and beyond these doors. No, our thoughts are with you. We love and miss you. May we be together as before, spreading kindness and justice and light. On the wings of your dreams, may our hearts take flight. May our faith be our guide. May blessings abide till we meet here at ERUUF once more.
Thank you all for your gifts this morning. And now will you please rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, One More Step. It's number 168 in your gray hymnal. It'll also be on the screen.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step, one more
we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. Go in peace, my friends.